Local. Trusted. This is News 3 at noon on KBTX.
Good afternoon. Residents are cleaning up today after homes and buildings were damaged by a tornado in Bryan. Members of the National Weather Service will be arriving in town today to get an official look at the damage caused by yesterday's storm. They should then officially classify the strength of the tornado based on the EF scale. The scale takes into account both wind and damage. Heavy rain caused flooding problems across the Brazos Valley. KBTX crews came across this car, which was partially submerged in a ditch on Highway 21. According to the Brazos County Sheriff's Office, the car hydroplaned and spun off the road. Keep in mind there are still several roads that are closed in the area due to flooding. Some of these areas are ones that are prone to flooding. We have a full list at kbtx.com. You can also get updates through drivetexas.org. More news coming up for you in a moment, but really the sunshine after the storm.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the survey team from the National Weather Service, this is news as of like the past 45 seconds. They have classified it as an EF2, and we'll have more information on that online here in just a little bit. But yeah, it's beautiful out there right now.
Breaking news, there you go.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's some good news about the next several days is that we're going to see a lot more of this. So we've got temps in the low 70s. It is lunchtime. We're looking good. Relatively calm conditions, a little bit of a breeze from the north and west, but I think we can handle it early this afternoon. There's a quick check elsewhere, about 70 in Madisonville, upper 60s for our friends in Houston County, and it's about 71 right now in Centerville. So a few clouds, and that's about it. Thunderstorms are well off to our east, and the severe threat is well off to our east as well. So we're going to get a couple of chances to dry out over the next couple of days, starting with today. We're only going to get warmer from here. We'll take a closer look, especially at the weekend, in just a bit.
Thanks, Max. In Louisiana, 2 people were killed by a tornado that tore through the northern city of Ruston early this morning. The tornado caused severe damage to buildings, vehicles, and power lines and forced a local university to cancel classes. Parts of the campus of Louisiana Tech were also severely damaged. The tornado was part of the same system that hit Texas, killing a woman and 2 children caught in flash floodwaters in Abilene. The National Weather Service says it appears the tornado cut a track over 130 miles from eastern Texas to the Louisiana-Arkansas border. An East Texas man has been put to death 2 decades after he played a role in the racially motivated dragging death of a black man. John William King and 2 other men with ties to white supremacy were all found guilty of killing James Byrd Jr. in Jasper in the summer of 1998. They chained his body to the back of a pickup truck and dragged it 3 miles down a rural road. There were several people in Huntsville for yesterday's execution. We spoke to a friend of King's right before he died. She says she visited with him just 3 days ago.
He told me that he was at peace with whatever happened, that if it was meant for him to live, he was fine with that. But if it was his time to go, he's perfectly fine. He said he'll be fine in the other world.
2 of James Byrd Jr.'s sisters and his niece were present for the execution. Afterwards, they called it a peaceful and dignified execution for a brutal and hateful murder. Russia's president is wedging himself into the conflict between the U.S. and North Korea. Vladimir Putin hosted North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in their first ever face-to-face talks. Ian Lee is in London with details on the historic summit.
It's become a symbol of North Korean diplomacy, that green armored train ferrying leader Kim Jong-un. The latest stop, Eastern Russia, for a summit with President Vladimir Putin. The leaders got chummy over champagne and caviar and exchanged gifts, each presenting the other with a sword. But talks quickly turned toward breaking the deadlock over nuclear weapons. Putin said Kim agreed to give up his arsenal, but only if North Korea gets international security guarantees. For Putin, the first ever talks are seen as a way to elbow himself between Washington and Pyongyang. Analysts believe Kim is trying to rally Russian support to show North Korea has powerful allies after talks with President Trump failed in Vietnam earlier this year because of disputes over U.S. sanctions. Putin and Kim spoke in broad, sweeping terms about peace and stability on the Korean peninsula, but revealed few details. For the 2 leaders, success might not be measured by ink on paper, but rather how the summit is seen around the world. Ian Lee, CBS News.
President Putin says he plans to share details of the summit with President Trump to help break the nuclear deadlock. Former Vice President Joe Biden is running for president, and he's already leading in the polls. This is Biden's third run for the Democratic presidential nomination. He had a short-lived bid in 1988 and 2008, and also considered a run in 2016, but opted against it. Biden served as vice president under Barack Obama from 2009 to 2017. A new dress code policy for parents is getting mixed reactions at one Texas high school. The nationally acclaimed principal who devised the rules says violators will be kicked off campus. Omar Villafranca has more from James Madison High School in Houston.
This is a failing school. You have other things to worry about than my attire.
This month, Principal Carlotta Outley Brown issued a letter telling parents they would be blocked from campus if they wore satin caps or bonnets, shower caps, hair rollers, pajamas, torn jeans showing lots of skin, and uncovered leggings. Also forbidden, low-cut tops, sagging pants, undershirts, short shorts, and dresses that reveal the derriere. You are your child's first teacher, Outley Brown wrote. We must have high standards. The letter was sent after this woman told a local TV station the high school turned her away because of her outfit.
She said that my headscarf was out of dress code and my dress was too short.
Principal Outley Brown has been repeatedly honored for her work as an educator.
You're an amazing woman.
In 2015, Ellen DeGeneres presented her with a $100,000 check, in part for a homeless outreach program Outley Brown established at her previous school. Outley Brown implemented a parental dress code at that school too, which won a National Blue Ribbon Award from the U.S. Education Department in 2008.
Some people have even compared this to, she's coming in like Morgan Freeman and Lean on Me.
Do whatever you have to transform and transmogrify this school.
I believe that she cares or she wouldn't be at that school. Let's hear the plan for taking care of the academic standards. Then perhaps let's say, you know what, moms and dads, can we maybe up the ante a little bit?
Brown and the district would not talk to us on camera, but it is worth noting that Brown is a 1979 graduate of the high school and says becoming principal was her lifelong dream. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Houston, Texas.
Students, teachers, and staff already follow a dress code. It's time now for Pump Patrol. Bryan Drive-In and Exxon on La Brisa are both tied at $2.39 a gallon. That's followed by Sam's Club at $2.42. To find the lowest gas prices in our area, just go to kbtx.com, click on the Features tab, and look for Pump Patrol. Today is the last day for the person who bought a winning ticket worth $2 million in College Station to claim their prize. The ticket was sold on October 27th at the Valero on 603 Harvey Road. The deadline to claim the prize is 5 o'clock today. Unclaimed prizes go back to the state for authorized programs. And fans of cookies and ice cream can now have it all in one bowl. Bluebell's newest flavor, cookie cake, hit stores today. The Brenham-based company describes the flavor as chocolate chip cookie pieces with swirls of chocolate and vanilla icing. It will be available for a limited time only. Just tried it, and it is very good. All right, the storms are gone. Sunshine returns in the Brazos Valley. Max's forecast is coming up. Plus, later, are women who take antibiotics at a higher risk of stroke? Details in our health report. Police are investigating an early morning shooting in College Station. It happened around 6 a.m. on Harvey Road across from Post Oak Mall. Police say someone showed up at the complex to confront the victim and a shot was fired. No one was hurt, and so far no arrests have been made, but police say the public is not in any danger. A motorcycle driver was hurt this morning after an accident in College Station. It happened at the Rock Prairie overpass on Highway 6. Police tell us that the driver of the motorcycle was taken to the hospital with a head injury, but the injuries did not appear life-threatening. It is unclear if anyone else was involved in the crash. A Madisonville man has been arrested after trying to run away from police and leaving two small children alone. Yesterday, police were trying to serve a warrant on Terry Sherman Jr. at his home. That's when officers say the 35-year-old climbed out a rear window and fled, leaving 2 children between the ages of 1 and 2 in the home alone. Officers eventually found Sherman hiding in a nearby barn. He was arrested for evading arrest and endangering a child, as well as that initial assault warrant. Much more news coming up for you in a moment. Max Crawford is here. Things are heating up out there today.
It is. It's kind of toasty already. So lots of us are already in the 80s right now. And just ahead of lunchtime, we're at about 76. Let's see how much we have jumped up with the new reading out of Easterwood, right at 80 degrees. And so it's a little muggy this morning for some. Even a little bit of fog popped up, but not a cloud in sight right now. 80 degrees your temperature in Caldwell as well. How about 85 in Giddings? Man, only noontime. You might make a run at about 90 degrees a little later this afternoon because we got a lot of sunshine coming our way for today. High pressure in control. That does give some air quality concerns across portions of the state. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But again, we'll make a run close to 90 today. If we don't get there today, some of us will get there tomorrow. But a big difference between today and tomorrow. We'll get a closer look at that and talk our next rain chance coming up in just a bit.
Thanks, Max. A suburban Dallas teenager has pleaded guilty to plotting an Islamic State group-inspired mass shooting at a North Texas mall. 18-year-old Mateen Aziz Yarand was convicted of solicitation of capital murder and charged with a terroristic threat. Authorities say he was motivated by an allegiance to ISIS and targeted a shopping mall in Collin County where he was planning a mass shooting.
He planned his attack on a Muslim holiday in order to minimize the number of potential Muslim casualties, that he did not think that Muslims would be in the mall on a Muslim holiday.
Investigators say Aziz Yarand sent money to someone he thought was a conspirator to buy weapons for the attack and met with undercover agents before he was arrested at Plano West Senior High School last year. Yesterday, the teen was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are pushing to regulate trampoline parks amid mounting concerns over their risk. There have been several deaths since 2012, and the government says emergency room visits are on the rise. Meg Oliver reports.
Jason Freewald is facing months of rehabilitation. He ruptured both of the patellar tendons in his knees after jumping into this foam pit at the Get Air trampoline park near Chicago.
I can't describe it. It was one of the most painful things I've ever had.
Less than an hour after an ambulance took Freewald to the hospital, we arrived at the same park with trampoline expert Don McPherson.
Having this trampoline here next to a wall, how dangerous is that?
Dangerous. You'll get a brain bleed from hitting this. Nice vault, Webster.
McPherson has coached elite gymnasts for more than 40 years and testified in hundreds of plaintiff cases against trampoline parks.
What kind of injuries do these cases involve?
2 broken necks, half a dozen open tib fib fractures, a couple broken ankles, a couple open fractured elbows.
With the broken necks, are we talking quadriplegics?
Yes.
I was horrified as a parent, not to mention a public official.
Senator Richard Blumenthal is sponsoring legislation to hold businesses accountable for injuries occurring inside trampoline parks. In many cases, visitors sign waivers like this one with forced arbitration clauses, meaning they give up the right to take their cases to court.
Trampoline parks want to avoid justice. They want to rig the system against anyone who is injured, who may assert claims against them.
Are they trying to hide the number of deaths and injuries?
They're trying to hide individual deaths, the total number, everything about these injuries that may cast them in a bad light.
Freewald signed one of those waivers to enter the Get Air trampoline park.
When you go to places like this, you sort of trust in the fact that things are safe.
We reached out to the park where Freewald says he was hurt. They didn't return our calls. Meanwhile, the world's largest trampoline park company, Circus Tricks, told us in a statement that as with any sport, there are inherent risks, but they are committed to ongoing safety evaluations and take numerous measures to reduce risk at their parks. Meg Oliver, CBS News, New York.
3 North Texas teachers are being called heroes for answering a long-distance cry for help. Ashley Elementary Principal Kim Frankson, Assistant Principal Jess Johnson, and Counselor Lori Ortel were in a meeting when a message came through the Stop It app. That app is designed so that students can report bullying, hazing, or any other issues anonymously to teachers or faculty. So when a student's message from Virginia reached the three, they knew exactly what to do.
When we first got it, we didn't recognize the name, so it was really important to us to figure out who the child was and where she was at to get her the help immediately.
The women were able to contact police who were able to help the girl, and yesterday they were honored as heroes and presented with Stop It's first ever life-saving award. Felicity Huffman is apologizing for her role in the college admissions bribery scandal. The actress was one of 33 parents accused of paying a consultant thousands of dollars to get their children into prestigious schools. Yesterday, Huffman and 12 others agreed to plead guilty to fraud and conspiracy charges. Prosecutors are reportedly recommending she serve less than a year in prison. A conviction could have resulted in a 20-year sentence. The Trump administration has purged many of the top officials at the Department of Homeland Security as the president takes the agency in a tougher direction on immigration and border security. Natalie Bryan has details from the White House.
First, it was Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen.
I just want to thank the president again for the tremendous opportunity to serve this country.
Then the White House fired Nielsen's number 2 in command, Claire Grady, and Randolph Alice, the Secret Service director. Citizenship and Immigration Services Director Lee Francis Cisna is also expected to leave, along with the department's general counsel.
It is, in a word, chaos. The problems we face at our southern border will not be fixed with high-profile firings or tweets or press conferences. It's going to take leadership.
White House senior advisor Stephen Miller is behind the move. Sources tell CBS News Miller won an internal battle with the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner and is now in charge of Homeland Security personnel and immigration policy. Miller, who is an immigration hawk, is now reportedly looking to revive the family separation policy and close ports of entry.
I would never support the use of family separation, the systematic traumatization of children as a tool of immigration policy, but it's not about what I support. Senator, it's about what you and your colleagues support.
Attorney General William Barr testified this morning that he has not heard of discussions to revive family separations, saying he supports the current policy of not separating families. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The Pentagon is expected to approve a Health and Human Services request to provide housing along the border for up to 5,000 children. Well, if you planned on visiting the Bush Library today, you won't be able to see the family's gravesite. The library says that it's closed today so that repairs could be made to the sidewalk around the site. A date for when the sidewalk will reopen hasn't been released, and the library apologizes for any inconvenience. Time now for our Pump Patrol, and Sam's Club and Murphy USA on Harvey Mitchell Parkway have the cheapest gas at $2.33 a gallon, while Murphy USA on Briarcrest is ringing up just a penny more. To find the lowest gas prices in our area, go to KBTX.com and click on the Features tab. It may be spring, but it's feeling like summertime outside. Max's forecast is coming up. But first, here's a live eye look this afternoon from the Stella Hotel in Bryan. Good Monday afternoon. The city of Franklin is recovering after an EF3 tornado caused widespread damage in that community. The tornado touched down just after 11 a.m. on Saturday. It knocked out power lines and tore homes from their foundation. Crews are still working to restore power. Around 400 remain without power. More than 50 homes in all were destroyed, along with a few businesses and a church. And school was not in session when the tornado touched down, but students are getting a valuable lesson in community support. Franklin ISD posted these pictures of teachers and students helping clean up after Saturday's tornado. Also, a duplex was demolished in that storm. School was canceled today for Franklin, Calvert, and Bremond ISD. In times of need, the outpouring of support is usually much stronger than the storm. After nearly 2 days without power, a warm meal sure can hit the spot. Right now, Atmos Energy staff is giving out free food to people. Folks can head down to the Best Western at Highway 79 and North Center Street in Franklin. They will be giving out meals until they run out. Other restaurants in town are also donating food. And such a great outpouring of support. Right now, weather-wise, is kind of the calm after the storm.
It is. We get a couple of nice days here, which will be good for at least that cleanup effort initially. But we do need to keep an eye on the forecast, especially as we head into the middle part of this week. But again, today, it's a lot of sunshine. You don't even see a whole lot of that cloud cover on our radar. Just a few of those high clouds trying to mix in that you can see off our live eye camera down looking over downtown Bryan. So again, we're starting off the afternoon fairly comfortable. It's the low 70s for many of us, a south breeze bringing in a whole lot more of that moisture, which is going to feed into rain chances later on this week. But today, those warmer temperatures should feel pretty comfortable. We're talking highs sitting close to the upper 70s to right around the low 80s once again today. But keep in mind that moisture overnight going to keep us from dropping too far. So we're not going to be as cold as we started out your Monday morning for tomorrow. So mid 50s, upper 50s, I think is about where we'll be. But again, we need to keep an eye on the forecast for Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon into the overnight hours is when we're kind of targeting the chance for some stronger, possibly even severe storms to roll through the Brazos Valley once again. And all types of severe weather will once again be possible. So we got a lot to time out here. I'll get you more details on this coming up here in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Erica. Actress Lori Loughlin has pleaded not guilty in the college admissions scam. Loughlin and her fashion designer husband are accused of paying $500,000 to a fake charity. The alleged scam helped get their two daughters accepted into the University of Southern California, falsely listed as crew recruits. A federal court filing shows the two also waived their right to appear in court for arraignment on the second superseding indictment. She and 16 other parents have also been charged with an additional count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. If you haven't filed your taxes, the clock is ticking. The deadline to turn in your tax returns is today. The IRS saying around 50 million taxpayers haven't filed. If you can't get everything in order before midnight, the IRS recommends an extension. That will prevent you from paying late penalties, but it won't give you more time to pay money that is owed. Security experts are warning of a new tax scam that's fooling many Americans across the country. Tom Hansen explains.
How many threats are you facing every day?
Well, this is a constant game of cat and mouse.
Caleb Barlow and the X-Force team at IBM in Cambridge, Massachusetts are tracking scammers all over the world.
We collect about 35 million spam messages a day. We track botnets. We look for all kinds of malicious activity.
And this tax season, they've spotted a new scam called TrickBot. Consumers and businesses are getting emails like this one that appear to be sent from reputable accounting, tax, and payroll firms, or people you may trust, like an accountant. IBM's Itai Maor teaches people how to prevent and recognize hacks. He says these emails come with attachments that can infect your computer with malware.
Unfortunately, people still click on emails and links that they're not familiar with or shouldn't be doing, which is why these tricks still work and are still out there.
A simple click can give scammers access to your computer.
What they're doing is they're waiting for you to go out to your bank account, and they're going to capture your credentials as you log into your bank account.
Barlow says there are ways to spot a fake email.
What do you notice about this email that's a little bit off?
.email instead of .com.
Exactly. So look down here, you see .com, but if I zoom in here, it looks like it's coming from paychecks.email.
His advice, if you're not sure, don't click. Tom Hansen, CBS News, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
A major construction project began today in southern Brazos County. A portion of Arrington Road will be closed to through traffic for the next 5 months. That's the section between Old Arrington Road and Mesa Verde. The road will only be open to residents in the affected area. All other traffic will have to come in from Highway 6. The construction project will widen the road, add a new pavement cross-section, and culverts with head walls. County officials say residents, mail, trash, and emergency services will have access to the road. And in today's Pump Patrol, the Ready to Go on College Avenue has gas for $2.29, followed by Sam's Club at $2.34, and Valero on 29th Street ringing up at $2.37 a gallon. To find our Pump Patrol section, just log on to kbtx.com and click on the Features tab. Well, today marks the 6th anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. On April 15, 2013, 2 homemade pressure-detonated bombs went off 12 seconds apart near the finish line. 3 people were killed, several hundreds were hurt in that attack. A government-sponsored program inspired by the attack in Boston is now being taught at some schools across the country. As Dawn Dollar shows us, Stop the Bleed teaches students life-saving skills.
There you go. This isn't your ordinary high school science class, but a lesson on how to save lives.
You need to apply enough pressure to keep that bleed on.
Trained nurses show students how to apply the right amount of pressure against a wound and to use tourniquets to stop bleeding.
If you ever were in a situation like that, in a trauma, most of us can agree we'd probably freak out, but this gave you a little more sense of confidence.
A person could bleed to death in a matter of minutes, precious time that can't be wasted waiting on first responders.
And the instructors also mentioned that at one point adrenaline's going to kick in and then you're just going to have to get down to you know how to do this, trust yourself.
And that's the point of this training. So in the event of an accident or an act of violence like a school shooting, students can perform these life-saving functions quickly.
When you think you can't pack anymore, still pack.
Dr. Reza Askari and Dr. Eric Goralnik are leading this Stop the Bleed class.
We can educate them. We can then empower them.
They were among the doctors at Boston's Brigham and Women's Hospital who embraced the program after tragedy struck their hometown 6 years ago.
The tipping point for us really in Boston was the marathon bombing, and that demonstrated to us that the public wants to help.
3 people died from the more than 200 who were injured. Experts credit bystanders and civilians who first came to the rescue. Since trauma is the #1 cause of death for those under the age of 45, Plymouth Public Schools Superintendent Gary Maestas felt the program was important for his students.
Our kids will be prepared for whatever they come in touch with.
Including mass shootings?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Any concerns that you'd be kind of squeamish in a real situation?
Probably
maybe at first, yeah. But once you realize that you know what to do to save this person's life, I think that will all go away.
The doctors tell us their ultimate plan is to roll out the program nationwide and equip schools with these tourniquets in the event of an accident or worse. Don Daler, CBS News, Boston.
Firefighters in Houston were called to the mansion of a boxing legend last night. Officials say heavy smoke was coming from the garage of George Foreman. Inside that garage is where Foreman keeps 40 cars and a golf cart. Luckily, officials were quickly able to put out the fire and keep it contained to the back of the garage.
Right now, it looks like the cars are in pretty good shape. We do have a origin that's towards the back of the garage, but there is a lot of smoke damage and water damage.
Investigators are working to find out how the fire started. They did say that people were inside Foreman's home at the time of the fire, but it's unclear if Foreman was there. So far, there have been no injuries reported. And coming up, the diabetes connection between mothers and their babies. Details coming up in our health report. Police are investigating a crash that slowed traffic this morning in College Station. It happened on Welborn Road near Harvey Mitchell Parkway. A motorcycle was involved in the crash, but we are still waiting to hear back from police about any possible injuries. Police had the road shut down for about 30 minutes, but it has since reopened. It is unclear if anyone else was involved in that crash. Police say a teenage boy who was shot in College Station remains in stable condition this afternoon. CSPD says a 16-year-old has been arrested in connection with the shooting that happened yesterday near the Lincoln Center. The teen is facing charges of aggravated assault of a deadly weapon. More news coming up for you in a moment. Erica Page is here. We are coming off a beautiful Easter weekend. Couldn't have asked for better weather.
Really couldn't. And we're kind of seeing that transition into today, but a few more clouds kind of in the mix. That's just really the main difference from what we saw yesterday. Finally, though, seeing a little bit more of that blue sky than where we were this morning. And temperatures as we continue on into this afternoon, already checking into the mid-70s across Bryan as well as College Station. But you'll notice humidity is still up there, and we do have that healthy southeasterly breeze at about about 10 to 15 miles per hour, which we'll hold on to throughout the rest of this afternoon as those temperatures continue to tick up a little bit closer towards 80 degrees. I think that's where most of us are going to rest before the day is done. But again, we're seeing a little bit more of that sunshine, and I expect more of it throughout the rest of the afternoon as you see some of those clouds working their way out on our current satellite. But right now, even though they don't hold the chance for any rain, we do see those rain chances popping back in Tuesday as well as into your Wednesday, and there's a potential that we could see some stronger storms. So we got a lot of detail out. I'll do all that coming up here in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Erica. Another explosion has rocked Sri Lanka's capital city one day after suicide bombers unleashed a string of attacks targeting Christians on Easter. Ian Lee reports.
Unbearable grief cuts deep in Sri Lanka, the fresh wounds of loss felt by so many. Suicide bombers spread a wave of terror across the country on Easter Sunday in coordinated attacks on churches and hotels. At a nearby hospital, a mother searched for her daughter. Hundreds were killed, hundreds more injured. Authorities blame a local group of Muslim radicals. The terror continued Monday when a van exploded as police were trying to defuse a bomb. It happened outside a church where a blast killed worshippers the day before.
This is a very sad moment. This is a very cowardly attack, and it's not just an attack. It's a very gruesome attack on humanity.
Sri Lankan special forces raided several places in the capital, Colombo, arresting 24 people. At the Vatican, Pope Francis condemned the terror attacks and offered prayers for the victims. Victims who died, even though security forces were warned about potential attacks. Sri Lanka's prime minister says police knew churches might be targets, but still, nothing was done. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo vowed today that the U.S. will keep battling radical Islamic terror, saying this is America's fight too. A baby passed away today on a flight between Malaysia and Australia. One of the passengers, who is also a retired nurse, said the 2-month-old baby was having trouble breathing. 2 doctors also on the flight tried to revive the baby for 2 hours. The parents say their child was not sick before they boarded that flight. And the FAA and DPS are investigating a deadly plane crash from over the weekend. It happened yesterday in Kingsland, which is about an hour northwest of Austin. The Llano County Sheriff said that they got a call about the plane crashing around 2:30 p.m. It was headed for an airport near the area. There were 2 people on the plane. They both died in the crash. President Trump is fighting back against congressional investigations into his business dealings, as well as the outcome of the Mueller report. Nicole Killian has the latest from Washington.
President Trump is suing House Oversight Chairman Elijah Cummings to block a subpoena that seeks years of the president's financial records. The lawsuit argues Article 1 of the Constitution does not contain an investigations clause or an oversight clause. Cummings issued the subpoenas earlier this month.
I think we need to look at the finances of this president.
Democrats are trying to figure out what to do next in the wake of the Mueller report. They'll hold a conference call today where possible impeachment is likely to be discussed.
If proven, some of this would be impeachable, yes.
All right.
Obstruction of justice, if proven, would be impeachable.
And you're going to go about to see if you can prove it?
Well, we're going to see where the facts lead us.
More Democrats now say impeachment is the way to go.
We have a Constitution of the United States, and it says when a president engages in this kind of activity, then it's time for impeachment.
Republicans say the Mueller report vindicates the president and proves there are no grounds for impeachment.
There was no collusion. It isn't there. Not a scintilla of evidence supports that. So it's time to move on.
President Trump agrees. He tweeted, "Only high crimes and misdemeanors can lead to impeachment. There were no crimes by me, no collusion, no obstruction, so you can't impeach. It was the Democrats that committed the crimes, not your Republican president." Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Trump has claimed the Mueller report was a complete vindication and is using it during a fundraiser as he prepares for the 2020 election. Staying in Washington, thousands were on hand this morning at the White House as the President and First Lady hosted the annual Easter egg roll. Festivities include bunny costumes, live music, and senior government officials reading from picture books. The tradition dates back to 1878 and, according to the Smithsonian, is now the largest annual White House event. Early voting on a $12 million bond is happening today for those who live within the Bryan School District. If passed, the bond would not increase the tax rate, but would allow Bryan ISD to take care of things like safety, security, transportation, and maintenance projects, just to name a few. There are 2 locations to vote early, at Arena Hall on Tabor Road and at the Bryan ISD Administration Building on South Ennis Street. Polls are open until 5 p.m. Early voting runs through April 30th. Election Day is May 4th. Time to check out today's Pump Patrol. Exxon on La Brisa is the lowest at $2.39 a gallon, followed by Sam's Club at $2.41 and Murphy USA on Harvey Mitchell ringing up at $2.44. To find the lowest gas prices, go to kbtx.com and click on the Features tab. Another option, you could go green with Brazos Transit. To celebrate Earth Day, the Brazos Transit District is offering free rides on all fixed routes in 8 cities, including Bryan College Station. You can see live maps and schedules when you download their app, Ride BTD. The Texas Lottery looking for the person who bought a winning ticket worth $2 million in College Station. That ticket was sold on October 27th at the Valero at 603 Harvey Road. The winning numbers are 8, 12, 13, 19, and 27. The deadline to claim the prize is Thursday at 5 p.m. Unclaimed prizes go back to the state for authorized programs. A brand new dinosaur has been discovered in Texas. The fossil was found just north of the Mexican border in West Texas. The bones were examined and confirmed by a Utah paleontologist.
It's an armored dinosaur. It's a 4-legged dinosaur, a tetrapod. It's an herbivore, so it eats plants. But imagine a cross between a horny toad and an armadillo with a giant bony club on the end of its tail.
This is the very first of its kind ever discovered in the state of Texas. It's one of Texas A&M's most cherished traditions. Aggie Muster will be held this evening on campus. Among the fallen Aggies being remembered are President George H.W. Bush and First Lady Barbara Bush, who passed away last year. Aggie Muster begins tonight at 7 at Reed Arena. Another chance of storms this week. Erica's forecast is coming up. And as the royal family gets ready for the birth of another child, we'll tell you why Prince Harry and Meghan Markle could soon be leaving the United Kingdom. It was a busy morning for first responders across Bryan College Station as they responded to a number of accidents. In Bryan, police say a truck hydroplaned on the slick roads, crashed into a light pole and into a fence in front of Allen Academy just after 6:30. We're told the driver was not hurt and no other vehicles were involved. And on Highway 6, an accident near National Tire and Battery slowed traffic during morning rush hour. Police tell us that a car spun out of control and crashed into a guardrail in the southbound lanes. It didn't appear that anyone was badly hurt. Traffic was diverted to the Rock Prairie exit. And police say they've made an arrest in the shooting death investigation of a Bryan man. Cameron Crumney is charged with aggravated robbery. He's being held on the Brazos County Jail on $300,000 bond. KBTX was there as at the home as detectives executed a search warrant. Police say Crumley is the gunman who robbed Jose Pina and another victim on the day of the murder. Investigators say Crumley approached the victims, demanded personal property, and then fired the gun. More news coming up in a moment, but first, Erica Page is here. Now this feels a little more like April.
Yes, it
Kind of
does.
muggy, some rain this morning.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
then
we're used to.
Yeah, exactly. And with that sunshine that came back out, you really felt it when you stepped outside. If you haven't stepped out this afternoon, you'll feel it. It just kind of hits you in one big wave. And we aren't quite done with the rain chances just yet for today. Most of the rain does sit off to our east, and we've got a little bit of a clearing in the clouds, and that could help bring back some rain chances later on this afternoon. But it's done a number over to our temperatures, we're already up into the upper 70s and likely continuing to climb. Notice what that humidity did. It made those feel like temperatures all the way close to 80 degrees. So we're talking about a little bit of a heat index kind of working back into our forecast as we continue on throughout the rest of this afternoon. I think highs do end up topping off into the low 80s for many of us. Again, holding on to a rain chance later on this afternoon. Tonight, it's going to be another repeat of what we saw this morning, a little bit of that patchy fog working in, and rain chances slowly kind of around the area for Friday, but we're building it in for your Saturday as well as your Sunday, and it's something we're watching, and we need to kind of work out some details with, and we'll get more information for you all here in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Erica. His return to Aggieland is the buzz all around town. Buzz Williams will be introduced today as A&M's new men's head basketball coach. He arrived in College Station yesterday. Williams comes back to Texas A&M from Virginia Tech after Billy Kennedy was let go in March. He will be A&M's 22nd head basketball coach. A welcome event will be held this afternoon for Williams and his family. It is open to the public, that event beginning at 4 o'clock at Reed Arena. A press conference will immediately follow. KBTX will be there and have coverage of the event later today on News 3. That event will also be streamed live at kbtx.com and on Facebook. Democrats are putting new pressure on President Trump. 3 different House committees are looking into several topics, including the president's tax returns and the Mueller report. Natalie Bryan has the latest from the White House.
The White House is pushing back on reports in the New York Times and Washington Post that some investigators on special counsel Robert Mueller's team believe Attorney General William Barr left out important details in his summary of the report.
The people that have been involved in this process, they've wasted 2 years of their life, and they need to find a way to validate it. They've lost in 2016, they lost on the collusion battle, and now they're looking for any and everything they can to continue to attack this president.
The House Judiciary Committee has now authorized subpoenas for the full report with no redactions.
The committee must see everything, as was done in every prior instance.
Meanwhile, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Richard Neal cited a little-known tax law to support his demand for 6 years of the president's tax returns. He also wants returns from 8 other Trump businesses, but the president does not appear ready to comply.
Until such time as I'm not underordered, I would not be inclined to do that.
The committee chairman wants the tax returns by next Wednesday, but the White House is likely to launch a legal challenge that could potentially take years to resolve. And Democrats are also scrutinizing the security incident last weekend at Mar-a-Lago. The House Intelligence Committee requested a briefing from the Secret Service following the arrest of a Chinese woman who tried to gain access to the president's resort carrying computer malware. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
President Trump responded to the New York Times report late this morning, calling it a fake newspaper with no legitimate sources. Investigators have released a preliminary report on the Ethiopian Airlines crash that killed all people on board. They've been examining the flight data recorders from the Boeing 737 MAX 8. Investigators determined the crew performed Boeing's emergency procedures, quote, repeatedly. But still, they were not able to gain control of the plane, and the plane did not respond and nosedived into the ground.
It sounds like there may be more things that are going to need proper review before we can take on this aircraft confidently as we did before these tragedies.
Boeing's entire MAX fleet remains grounded until the FAA declares the plane safe. A Central Texas child hospitalized with meningitis has died. The student was a second grader at Killeen ISD. The district says the child had been in the hospital since Saturday. No other cases have been reported at the school. The campus is providing grief counselors to help any children who need it. A boy who went missing when he was just 6 years old turned up in Kentucky on Wednesday. He told police he had just escaped his kidnappers. Adriana Diaz reports from Newport, Kentucky.
This home video shows a carefree Timothy Pitson just months before the 6-year-old vanished. Oh, man. Now, nearly 8 years later, there may finally be a break in the case.
A 14-year-old juvenile, male white, says he was kidnapped from somewhere.
According to a police report, a 14-year-old who identified himself as Timothy Pitson said he fled to Newport, Kentucky Wednesday after escaping 2 kidnappers that have been holding him for 7 years. This photo shows the teen just before police arrived.
He said that he was tired and he's been passed around and he's lost.
The teen allegedly told police he'd been staying at a Red Roof Inn, but wasn't sure where. He described the kidnappers as 2 white males with bodybuilder-type builds. One allegedly had a spiderweb tattoo on his neck, the other a snake tattoo on his arms. Timothy was last seen in May 2011. He was spotted on surveillance video at various parks and resorts days after his mother, Amy Fry Pitson, picked him up from his elementary school just outside Chicago. But on May 14th, Amy was found dead in a motel room of an apparent suicide. She allegedly left a note that said Timothy was safe with people who loved him, but would never be found.
She was definitely wrestling with the demons, and the demons were winning.
In 2017, Timothy's father, James Pitson, told Crime Watch Daily that his wife struggled with mental health issues, but he didn't believe she would harm their son.
I can't see her doing that, taking his life. That's just not her.
We always felt very strongly that Tim was alive.
Kara Jacobs is Timothy's aunt. She says they are overjoyed he may have been found, but also scared.
We're still waiting to see that if it is actually Timothy.
The boy's been taken to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, where he's being evaluated. Adriana Diaz, CBS News, Newport, Kentucky.
It's time now for today's Pump Patrol. Sam's Club has the cheapest gas at $2.32. H-E-B on Texas Avenue and College Station is a penny more, and Murphy USA at Harvey Mitchell Parkway ringing up at $2.34 a gallon. To find the lowest gas prices in our area, go to kbtx.com and click on the Features tab. Well, the rain returns this weekend. Erica's forecast is coming up. Plus, Brenda Sims is here with another Names and Faces. We'll introduce you to a man who has a passion for serving students in our community.